Hello, I'm Rula from the Rula Magic channel. Today, I would like to talk about deck building, specifically advanced deck building for EDH. There are often some aspects of deck building that are not mentioned enough, and I'd like to talk about some of those and the way that I build decks nowadays, which has been evolving throughout the years. Today, my deck building process involves making sure I have a strategy, a clear strategy for my deck, making sure I have a win condition, I have enough interaction for different types of things, using enough ramp, having enough card advantage, having a solid mana base that can give me an almost 100% chance of avoiding mana screw and mana flood, having alternate commanders, having value engines, and having enough consistency. Strategy. Decide which strategy your deck will use. The classic mid-range strategy involves ramping in the early game, drawing cards or similar card advantage, interaction, which includes both protection and removal, redundancy, and the win condition. Aggro, which focuses on attacking early on and resilience against removal. Control, which focuses on disruptive interaction, for example, removal, and the win condition. Combo, which includes any explosive win condition as soon as possible. Win condition. How are you planning to win with this deck? Define the end game situation and reverse engineer the necessary game pieces needed to get there. Define how many of each type of effect you will need based on which turn you need it on, and use a hypergeometric calculator. Maximize synergy by avoiding payoffs that do different things, or worse, enablers for different strategies. You will need to stop your opponent's plans and or protect your own. Usually around 11 will be sufficient to at least have one in hand on time, but use a hypergeometric calculator to have more accurate odds. Which type of interaction is optimal for your deck will depend on the strategy of your deck and synergy with it, among other things. I prefer asymmetrical effects that can be cast at instant speed and that affect multiple targets at once, rather than single target removal or sorcery speed board wipes. Usually, you don't have to deal with a threat until it is attacking you, and combat remains the most common win condition. I'm also partial to interaction that replaces itself. Tutors can help to get to these numbers as they perform several functions at the same time. Include interaction against the most common win conditions, namely combat, draw, burn, and life loss. Save interaction for key pieces that win games. Also, include interaction against board wipes. You want around 10. Some types of interaction that I always strive to have in my decks include protection, wipes, draw hate, graveyard hate, artifact removal, enchantment removal, land destruction, creature interaction, and fogs. Ramp. This will depend on your deck's strategy. You can ramp early, in the mid game, late, or never. For an early ramp, around 15 pieces of ramp, including Soul Ring, should be good enough, but use a hypergeometric calculator to check the exact probability. Tutors can help get to these numbers as they perform several functions at the same time. But remember, card advantage is more important than ramp. Card advantage. Consider adding a few sources of card advantage to avoid running out of gas. Often these categories overlap, so you can have cards that fulfill multiple functions. I tend to prefer generic good card advantage over cards that seem synergistic but really only provide circumstantial card advantage. You should include around 15 of those. Mana base. The professor's video along with EDH Regcast's video on lands is a good start. In addition, you will need filters and/or ramp to complete the mana base. With filters, I mean cheap card draw and card selection such as Scry and Surveil. In 2 or more colors, the typed Surveil lands in conjunction with fetches are the best option. Using a hypergeometric calculator, I found that a deck usually needs around 40 sources of 0 or 1 mana value, including lands, ramp, and filters as the ones I just mentioned. 16 of mana value 2, 5 of mana value 3, 4 of mana value 4, and 3 of mana value 5. Alternate commanders. I found that casting your commander over and over again is not a good strategy, especially with high mana value commanders, and building your entire deck around your commander can and will be punished. So consider adding other cards that synergize well with the rest of your deck. Additionally, be wary of cards that do nothing if your commander is not on the board. Value engines. Include at least one value engine resilient enough to removal that can keep you in the game during long grindy games. For example, Seasons Past plus a tutor. Consistency. Adding a couple of tutors or recursion and redundant effects is necessary to make the deck consistent enough to enact its plan every game.